Okay, let's move on to part 2 of the Cub Cadet revival here. And at this point, I kind of have more questions than I have answers. That is in fact a Kohler engine, a Kohler Command Series 18 horsepower engine. So now the question is this actually a 3185? Or is it a 3186? Or is it a 3185 that has had an engine swapped out? There's a few other clues that tell us that this might be a 3186, and that is that the one tire on the rear that is correct or original is a 24 by 10.5, and that would be correct for a 3186. A 3185 would have a 23 by 10.5. So the serial number I think was supposed to be underneath the seat. If it was there, it's long gone. Like I said, this fender section has been repainted, so I cannot find a serial number anywhere. But at this point, it's looking like this is actually a 3186, not a 3185, which would make it from 99 or 2000. I don't really know. Either way, it doesn't really matter. It's got to be fixed. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to attack the problems in the order of functionality. So I took the front kind of guards apart here, and I'm going to replace the drive belts for the PTO shaft, and then we're going to take a look at the deck. So the deck is in pretty sad shape, and I've already cleaned it up a little bit. That's what came out of it. Alright, again, looking at the problems kind of in the order of functionality. The blades they're about as sharp as the back of my hand, but I think we can salvage them. But the big problem is this spindle right here is totally foobar. I think that these might be tapered roller bearings, so I guess it's possible it's a preload issue, but I doubt it. It's probably smoked. And then I'm pretty sure this one's bent. Sure looks like it's got a death wobble to me. And then this one over here really doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's a little bit loose, but tapered roller bearings probably should have some end play. What else? This guide wheel here, the tire is loose on the rim, and then the whole spindle assembly is completely toast. It's all wallowed out. So I do have those spare guide wheels. We'll probably go ahead and at least swap that one out. We might swap this one out too. I see it's loose on the rim too. And the spindle's not much better in that one. So we'll have to fix that. Then this bracket right here should have an ear that goes down here and attaches to this hole. Looks like it's already been welded once before, and whatever was there is now gone. And the other side's broken too. Well, there might be an ear there underneath that big washer. I don't know. Something's screwy there. And then they put these bolts with double nuts on them instead of pins. I think it's supposed to have pins, so maybe we'll do something about that. Pretty much all the rollers are completely toast. That one's pretty bad. These ones are pretty bad. The outside ones aren't, well, they aren't very good either, are they? This is the depth setting mechanism right here. There should be some kind of a knob or something. I assume there's some kind of a detent that goes into these pins. That's all missing, so I don't know what that's supposed to be. But otherwise, the top side of the deck's not too bad, other than it's a little bit rusty. But the gearbox seems like it's in good shape, and the U-joints in the PTO shaft are fine. That appears to be some kind of a cup that goes around this spindle nose, kind of like a seal. It's like it's all busted up. Yeah, so it probably should look like that. Okay. Well, the spindle itself doesn't look too bad. Let's get the bearings out of there. My favorite seal puller. Alright, well that thing is smoked. Oh yeah. So this is the whole assembly that I pulled apart, but something's not adding up here. It seems like there should be a spacer between the bearings to set the preload, because otherwise, yeah, how do you set the preload? It'd just be from how much you tighten up the blade, and that wouldn't make any sense. So I don't know, I think we're missing a piece. Did I drop it? Oh, you dummy. Don't mind me, folks. This is my first day. There is a spacer. Okay. Now it makes sense. So this little guy here must set the preload of the bearings. So, yeah. Okay. Now it's making sense. Jesus. Let me pull the other ones apart and we'll see what we got. Alright, so here's the end play on this set of bearings right here. This is the far end. It's not too bad, maybe 10 or 15 thousandths, which for an application like this, that's probably fine. But check out the seal. See how it's leaking? Somebody put the thing in backwards. Come on. Yeah, that's a single lip seal. It's supposed to go in like this. It's actually a double lip seal. Still, it's supposed to go in like this. Yeah, can't make this stuff up. So this is that middle spindle that was really loose. Check out the end play on that one. It's probably, I don't know, 100 thousandths. So that one's junk. Alright, here's the next problem. This is the lower bearing race. See how I can spin it in the bore? So it's been spinning in there. So we probably need a whole new bearing housing. There's one other one like this where the bottom race is spinning as well. Well, this is the one that I thought was bent, and it definitely is bent. You might not be able to pick it up on the camera, but she's bent right there, and then it's also, the bearing's been spinning on the shaft here, so that's worn out. And then looks like the blades might have run loose, so needs a new spindle. Same with this one, probably needs a new spindle. This one here I think is okay. I mean, it looks okay. So yeah, I think we're going for 2 new spindles, 2 new spindle housings, all new bearings, all new seals, and then one of these cup shaped kind of guards. We'll be all set. Alright guys, I've been cleaning up the bottom side of the deck just using my needle scaler, and got it pretty well cleaned up. I don't think it's going to be too bad, but I did find a few issues. So this right here is a mounting point for that little 90-degree gearbox, and it's cracked out, so we're gonna have to fix that. I think what I'll do is I'll just hammer this down, weld it on the bottom side, and then we'll put a plate on the top side, and that should take care of that. But I don't see a whole lot of other issues. There's some dents up here in the front side, but I don't think that'll hurt anything. And then this one bolt right here has been chewed up pretty good, so I don't know if it's too close to the blades or what the deal is there. And then there's supposed to be some baffles. So it's a 3-blade deck. It should have a baffle that kind of, I don't know what it looks like, comes up here and it goes around the middle blade and then comes back out. And then there's a little one that goes up here in the corner. The one in the corner I have, but it's in terrible condition. This big one here at the back, it's not even it's totally missing. So I think we're just going to leave them out and kind of see how it goes. I think the purpose of the baffles, it probably helps keep the bottom of the deck clean, and it definitely helps, you know, improve the airflow, but whatever, it'll work fine without them. So let me fix that real quick and I'll bring you back. Anyway, on the one side, both of these ears were broken off and actually missing, so I cut some new ones out, welded those in. I got to give those a little bit of paint. The other side was in better shape, but it was actually cracked through, so I just welded that one up. Hopefully it'll be okay for a few more years. Then as far as the actual arms go, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, the bushings are completely worn out. Actually, one just fell out. And then these are the actual wheels. I've got two good actual wheels, but the bushings that are in the wheels are pretty bad. I can't buy those bushings, they're an odd size. So what I'm going to do is just take all the wheels apart. I got 4 wheels, and we'll mix and match bushings until we find one that is sort of close to the right size, or we'll mix and match until we find the least worn ones. And then I got to do something with this axle shaft. All 4 of them are worn like this because they run the bushing around this threaded portion. This is just a bolt that's welded in the bottom of this bracket. So probably what I'll do is I'll just cut this out and we'll weld a whole new bolt in there. Or if I get really ambitious, we'll make a special deal here that doesn't have these threads, because that's like a pattern failure. You know, when you see 4 pieces that are not worn at the bottom, they're all worn at the top, you know, that's a design flaw. So maybe we'll make an actual spindle for this, see how I feel. Then we've got these idler pulleys and tensioner pulleys from the deck. Bearings are shot in both of those, but they're actually, the bearings actually like swaged in there, so I had to use the lathe to just turn this shoulder off, and then I could press the bearing out. They're just 6203 deep groove ball bearings, so I'll push a new one in and we'll either swage over what's left, or we'll actually just put some tack welds around the outside to keep those from coming out. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. Anyway, you can buy the new idler pulleys. They're not even that expensive. I should have done that, but I didn't. Then this is the pivot for the tensioner, and I broke it. I broke it off, taking it apart. It's all rusty. So I got to fix that. Probably what I'll do is I'll just chuck it up and we'll drill the end out and tap it, and then we'll put in a piece of threaded rod and weld it in place. So not a big deal, but I did make some more work for myself. So I went ahead and bought a whole slug of parts from McMaster Car to fix this deck. And you know, there's carriage bolts, some flange locking nuts. These are new tie rod ends for the power steering, bushings for the arms here. You know, some material to make new axles for the wheels, and some regular ball bearings. Now, I don't claim to be a lawn tractor repair expert, but this is not my first rodeo as far as fixing machines. So I'll give you guys a little bit of an insight, you know, what I've noticed over the years. Fixing various things, especially industrial type machines. Companies that make machines, I don't care what it is, from a photocopier to a Caterpillar D11, they don't make that much money selling the actual machine. There's just not that much margin in it for them. You know, there's competition. If Caterpillar prices the D11 too high, everybody buys a Komatsu. You know, if Ford prices the F-150 too high, everybody goes and buys a GM or a Dodge. So they have to be very conscious of the overall price when they sell the actual product. But where they can make a lot of money is selling parts. And that's because once you own the machine, they kind of got you cornered. As long as they price the repair parts so that it's still more economical to repair than it is to buy new, especially to buy new from a competitor, they can pretty much get you to pay whatever they want. And you know, I know like typical markup on repair parts, anywhere from 25 to 250%. Sometimes it's 500%. Just depends. And there's a markup in every step of the chain. So the company marks up the parts, then the dealer marks up the parts, and a lot of times you got to pay shipping. It's a whole racket. And most of these companies that, you know, sell machines or whatever, it's the old school system. They run a dealer network. You can't just go online and buy parts or whatever. You can't buy directly from the manufacturer. You got to go through a dealer. So everybody gets a piece of the pie. Now, where they really rake you over the coals is on standard hardware items. I guarantee you that Cub Cadet or MTD or whoever actually made this thing does not make Oil-Lite bronze bushings. Period. They can't. It's just not economical to. They buy them. They buy them in bulk from a supplier. And you can do the same thing. So, for example, this right here is a tie rod end. It's a metric 1.7 M12 1.75 threads on both ends. It's made out of cast zinc. Probably cost somebody, I don't know, $1.50 to make this thing. Cub Cadet wants $46 for this part. You can buy it from McMaster-Carr. Anybody can buy this from McMaster-Carr for $22. That's what I did. It's the same thing. Again, I guarantee you that MTD does not make a tie rod end. They can't. There's one or two companies in the world that make these things. They punch them out by the thousands. Prices are pretty reasonable. Another example, this is a clevis pin right here. So it goes through the arm bracket here, holds the wheel on. Whatever. Standard 1/2 inch clevis pin. Cub Cadet wants like $12 for this thing. And it takes 6 of them. McMaster-Carr, $2.50. So, you know, a lot of times it is cheaper to buy things from the dealer than it is to buy aftermarket. People get in trouble there all the time. You know, like especially things like, you wouldn't expect, things like timing chains on a car or timing belt. A lot of times you can go to the dealership and buy them just as cheap as you can buy the aftermarket ones online. So you got to shop around. But for standard hardware items like this, they're just going to absolutely rake you over the coals as far as the price goes. So anyway, that's my 2 cents about it. Here's what I'm dealing with on the old steering cylinder. Those threads are completely toast. So it had this jam nut on there. I split that to get it off. And then this is the old tie rod end that they tried to jam on there. All the threads are missing out of the inside of that. I have no idea why they did this. So I gotta try to fix that. Well, they certainly look the same to me. So the old one, the original one, was made by THK, and the new one is made by IKO. Both Japanese companies. I think we'll be fine. Let's put her together. And the threads look terrible, but I think it'll be fine. Okay, looks better than that. So the hole here on the spindle is egged out a little bit. I don't think it'll hurt too much. Hopefully they didn't drill it out when they put the... Yeah, they might have drilled it out when they put that bastard-sized tie rod on. Anyway, I dug around in my hardware bin, and this is a 7/16 SAE pattern washer, and it just happens to fit perfectly on that M12 stud. So I think I can stick that on there, and then I'll use this flange style locking nut on the bottom, and we shouldn't have too many problems. I'll have to keep an eye on it and make sure it stays tight. Okay, the steering is sorted. I found a reference dimension in the parts manual. It said that when the cylinders collapse, it should be 2 3/4 from the jam nut to the face of the cylinder. That's where I set it, and it seems to be pretty well centered. Close enough for me anyway. And I did replace both of the ball joints, but I don't think this one was bad. Or it feels fine to me. So we'll go musty style and throw it in our hoard, you know, for the next time. The only difference I really see between the ones I've installed and this one is that the hex here is larger on the old ones, so it has a little bit more of a shoulder. That's why I put that washer, put that washer up against the hex on the ones that I installed. So yeah, all good. Okay, here we go. So I got this thing here, fits just nicely on there. Now we got to figure out what to do with this flange here. Alright, it's not quite as clean as the factory swaging job, but I think it'll do the trick. So I'm working on installing the new bushings in these guide wheel arms, and I want to replace the grease zerks. I know I had one for sure that wasn't taking grease. Anyway, this is what was in there. I think it's a press-in style, and I'm going to go to this here, which takes a 1/4 28 thread. So I'm just going to tap these out real quick. Maybe. Oh, that one's good. Okay, here's the plan for the guide wheels. I got the 2 best wheels, which best isn't saying much, and I put in the 4 best bushings that I have. These are not brass bushings, they're actually just steel. So with the steel axle, it's just steel on steel. It's not a very good design. I don't know how long they expect those to last, but it must not be very long. Anyway, I'll make a new axle out of this tubing. Then I did some dentistry on these caster frames here, extracted the old worn out spindle bolts that were in here, and then I scrounged around in my bolt storage area, found some 3/4 inch bolts that have a longer shoulder here before the thread. So these actually will go all the way through, and there will only be threads above the bushing. So I think that'll help keep this top bushing from egging out so bad and wearing through, because all 4 spindles were worn exactly the same way. So anyway, I'll take these, stick them in here, cook those on, and we'll figure out how much we need to stick through the top. We'll zip those off, and then I think, yeah, the top of these caster frames here it's worn a divot pretty good here from where it was leaned back and only rubbing on one side. So I think what I'll do is I'll just take a 3/4 inch washer, set it on top of here, and we'll just weld it to the top of the face. So that is the plan. I will do that and be back. Okay, I think we had some success here. So there's the new bolts welded in place. Here's my washer, and yeah, I think it's going to work out pretty good. So now this thing will fit like so, and we'll have a nice unthreaded section to bear on this bronze bushing at the top. Plus we got the nice washer at the bottom to reinforce that. So this should be good to go. And they should have built them like this originally. I don't know why. I mean, I guess they just wanted to use an off-the-shelf bolt, but that is definitely not an ideal design. And then I whipped up some new axles for our wheels. And I did a switcheroo on the grease zerks, and I know that these are taking grease. So I'm ready to put a lick of paint on these, and then I'll slap them together. And hopefully tomorrow we can put the whole deck together. I got a call that my parts came in, so I'll go pick those up, and yeah, we're almost there. Alright, here's what $385 will get you at the local Cub Cadet proprietor. There's a set of PTO belts, a deck belt, and 2 of these deck spindle assemblies, and that is it. So they are mighty proud of this stuff. $165 a piece for the spindles, and the belts are like, I think one's $35 and one's $55, so yeah, pretty pricey. I probably own 200 taps, but I did not own a 7/16 14 tap, so I had to stop at the hardware store and buy one of these Cheese Dog carbon steel taps. Hopefully it's got enough to get through it. Anyway, my thought is I drilled this out with a U-sized drill. Had to blow the dust off of that one too. And then I'm just going to tap this. And it's interesting, we're packing up pretty much constantly while these videos are going on. I've been packing up to move out of my shop, so this will probably be the last machining job that I do in this shop. So thought that was interesting. Okay, I decided to go ahead and rebuild this one spindle here. Seemed like everything was good, other than that one seal was upside down. So I got the bearings all packed and ready to go back together. And there's a spacer that goes between them. I'll stick that guy in there like so. Should be plenty of grease to hold it in place. And we'll stick the other one in there like that. And here's the new grease seal. Bought this from Napa, not a sponsor. There's the part number. So I'm pretty sure it's 1.125" outside diameter and 1.25" inside diameter. So anyway, just make sure you put the bearing in before you put the seal in. And we'll drive her in. Now, is Brian Block watching this? Because he always shames me about using sockets to drive in seals and bearings. So I finally went out and bought this nice Lyell Pneumatic bearing driving kit. And this is actually the first time I've ever used it. So here we go. That's it right there. Alright, so the stack up on the top, it's this cup here, which is kind of like a dust seal, and then this collar. Pokes through like so, and then another collar down here. I better put a little grease on the lip of that seal. And my repair came out pretty good on my pivot bolt here, so that goes into this belt tensioner assembly just like so, and nobody's the wiser. How people live without a lathe and a welder, I will never know. Well, I think the bottom side of the deck is done. I don't know if I showed you guys this, but I did go ahead and paint the bottom side after I cleaned it all up, installed the caster wheels. I'm going to flip it down. I already got the belts and the gearbox mounted. I think if I put some guards back on, we're ready to mount this back on the machine and try it out. Alright guys, I think it's all back together. And I don't know if I showed, but I had to patch the deck there where it was cracked. And then right here, this bolt had kind of rotted away the square section for the carriage bolt, so I just patched it on the inside. And I patched this one on the top side, which I probably shouldn't have done. It sort of makes the gearbox a little bit cattywampus. I'm just going to loosen these bolts here and just tweak it ever so slightly. I don't think it'll hurt anything. Anyway, so we got 2 new spindles, new bearings in both of these idlers, well, the tensioner and the idler, and then we repacked that one. And I know some of you OCD guys are going to say, you know, why didn't you change all 3 spindles? Well, there's no reason to. I looked at the bearings, everything was fine. Those are high quality Timken tapered roller bearings. If they're not bad, there's no reason to replace them. So I just put in new seals and, you know, repack the bearings, and it'll be fine. Now the blades I sharpened, but probably next season they're going to have to be replaced. They're pretty tired. Well, I think it looks a lot better. Like I said, we still have to do something about these rollers on the back, but we can run it for a little while like this. And no, I'm not going to paint the top side of the deck or anything else on the tractor. You know, I hate painting. I'm terrible at it. Plus this deck is, I'm pretty sure it's powder coated, and there's really no good way to paint over top of powder coat without sandblasting it all the way down to bare metal. So we're going to run it and see how it does. Okay, success. The thing actually mows pretty good. And I didn't show it on the last video, but I tried to mow with it before I replaced the belts, and it would just slip the PTO belts immediately. So it definitely needed those. I think the deck belt probably would have lived, but might as well replace it while we're replacing everything else. It's much quieter, much smoother, and obviously cuts a lot better now that the blades are sharpened. So I'm pretty happy with it. I got a few things to do. I need to adjust the lift link on this side because it lifts a lot higher on the other side than it does on this side. And there's something funky with the steering. The shaft has some play in it or something, and the power steering doesn't seem to do exactly what I think it should do. It works, but I think there's an adjustment I had to make. And then I got to do an adjustment to the front, forward, and reverse pedals so that they are a little better balanced. It's really slow in reverse and really fast in forward right now, so I need to tweak that. But otherwise I'm pretty happy. I picked up a couple of rims and tires off of an old 2165 Cub Cadet lawnmower, and they're pretty much a direct fit, plus they're drilled for weights. So if I find a set of wheel weights, I can throw them on there. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And the tractor itself really needed very little work. So I knew that it had the one wrong size rim and tire. That wasn't a big deal. The only work that I actually had to do to the tractor was fix that power steering cylinder and replace the PTO belts. Everything else, well, the fuel line, of course. Everything else has been, you know, pretty much normal for a tractor of this age. They all have worn out seats. They all have leaking tires. They all have, you know, creaks and groans. So there's no surprises there. Where I kind of got snookered was on the deck, but I should have known the decks are always just completely beat. So I think the chances of finding, you know, a mower of this vintage with a better conditioned deck, probably pretty minimal. Now the other thing too, I think there's some confusion about this tractor. Some people seem to think that it's one of those little hardware store, you know, Home Depot throwaway type lawnmowers, and that is not the case. This is a pretty beefy machine. I believe the spec sheet says it weighs just short of 1,000 pounds with the deck, and having moved it, I would say that's absolutely correct. And this thing has, you know, hydraulic lift, power steering, tilt steering wheel, all the options. You know, it's quite a bit different from those, you know, little commodity level, you know, lawn tractors that you see for sale at, you know, at chain stores. So as far as the price goes, I asked you guys to name the price that you would pay for this tractor in the last video. I will tell you I paid $200 for it, and that was with the understanding that the engine would run if you poured some gas in the carburetor, and I did verify that before I bought it, and I thought that was a pretty fair price. In this area, you'll see these tractors sell, you know, in the condition I bought it in, anywhere from $150 to $250, so I bought it right in the kind of the middle range. You know, the smaller, you know, throwaway lawnmowers, you might be able to get one for 50 bucks not running. Or if you're in the right place at the right time, you might be able to get one for free. I don't know. I did get a lawnmower for free, but it was an ancient Simplicity Sunstar, and that's the only one I've ever seen for free in this area. You just don't get this kind of stuff for free. You know, there's scrap guys that run around and pick it up, and you know, a tractor like this would scrap for you know, $60 or $70 on a good day. So you aren't going to get them for free. But fixed up and in good running condition, this tractor I'd say is worth anywhere from $800 to $1,200. This one cosmetically isn't that great, so probably closer to $800. A really nice clean one of these, maybe with a snow blade attachment, easily get $1,200 for it in this area. And I know I'm no Musty One, I'm not trying to be. I just, you know, I like his channel, so I thought we could kind of pretend to be him for a day. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next time. Bonus footage. I do own a yellow diesel fuel can, and it says diesel right on the side, and it is in fact full of diesel fuel. So everyone can stop commenting that the diesel fuel can should be yellow. I do have one. However, this red can right here, it'll also hold diesel fuel. I know you guys don't believe that, but you can put it in there. Bonus footage. The whole time I've been working on this tractor, I've also been moving out of my shop. Longtime viewers will know that I purchased a house and a shop, and I'm no longer going to be a renter, but I got a lot of stuff. So the big mill is out of here, all the welding stuff is out of here. There's a couple shelving units, all my steel, everything's been moved. All that's left really is the forklift and some of the manual machine tools. So a couple loads with the rollback truck and we'll be all done.